More than 10 things you didn't know about ancient Africa. It is said that the name of Africa is derived from the Greek word aphrike, which means without cold. This is what the famous medieval traveler and scholar Leo Africanus wrote in the 16th century. While scholars still debate whether Kush refers to Africa or Mesopotamia as a geographic location, Adamo says that Kush in the entire Old Testament refers to Africa and people of African ancestry. Most historians say the name Africa was given to this continent by the ancient Romans and the Greeks. There were many others used by the people living there throughout history, including Ortigia, Libya, and Ethiopia. However, Alkebulan, mother of mankind or Garden of Eden, is the most common name of indigenous origin. The following are many things we Africans didn't know about Africa. The human race originated from Africa. The oldest known skeletal remains of modern humans, 195,000 years old, were excavated at sites in Ethiopia and are the oldest known in the world. Evidence shows that 43,000 years ago, mining started in Africa. A hematite mine was found in Swaziland at Bomvu Ridge in the Ngwenya mountain range. 300,000 artifacts, including thousands of stone-made mining tools, were discovered. Africans introduced basic arithmetic 25,000 years ago. An Ishango bone tool handle with notches found in the Ishango region of Zaire, now called Congo, near Lake Edward. It was originally thought the bone tool was more than 8,000 years old, but recent dating has dated it to 25,000 years. The tool has 3 rows of notches. Row 1 shows 3 notches carved next to 6, 4 carved next to 8, 10 carved next to 2 5s, and finally a 7. The 3 and 6, 4 and 8, and 10 and 5 represent the process of doubling. In the 15th century, in Timbuktu, mathematicians knew about the rotation of the planets and they knew about the details of the eclipse. This is the information we had to wait for almost 200 years to be discovered in Europe by Galileo and Copernicus. According to Michael Palin, the Imam of Timbuktu has a collection of scientific texts that shows the planets surrounding the sun. This information dates back hundreds of years. This clearly shows that the scholars of Timbuktu in Africa knew a lot more than the fellows in Europe. Evidence shows that in pre-colonial Uganda, autopsies and cesarean operations were customarily and effectively done by African surgeons. The surgeons normally used antiseptics, anesthetics, and quaternary iron. According to the Edinburgh Medical Journal in 1884, the process of the operation showed a skilled surgical team with many years of experience conducting the operation with smooth efficiency. Evidence in Kenya shows that Africans were studying the movements of stars such as Triangulum, Aldebaran, Bellatrix, Central Orion, etc., as well as the moon, in order to create a lunar calendar of 354 days. There are ruins of a 300 BC astronomical observatory found at Nomorutunga in Kenya. Historical evidence shows that 12,000 years ago, Africans cultivated crops. Professor F. Wendorf discovered that people in Egypt cultivated crops like barley, chickpeas, legumes, lentils, and wheat. Among the ancient tools used were grindstones, milling stones, cutting blades, hide scrapers, engraving bearings, and mortars and pestles. There is historical evidence that shows the water system and sewage system in ancient Egypt. In one of the cities built by the pharaohs, now called Amarna, according to an American urban planner, cleanliness was prioritized in Amarna as compared to other Egyptian cities. Toilets and sewers were in use to dispose of waste. Other hygiene products like soap were manufactured, and perfumes and essences were popularly used against body odor. In addition, a solution of natron was used to keep insects from houses. The African East Coast from Somalia to South Africa has ruins of over 50 towns and cities. They are said to be built between the 9th to the 16th centuries. These towns and cities in West Africa are mostly surrounded by walls. According to an English historian, W. Reid, who visited West Africa in the 19th century, there are many large walled cities similar to those of ancient Greece. In southern Africa, there are more than 600 stone-built ruins in the regions of Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and South Africa. These ruins are called Masvingo in Shona. Lusvingo in Kalanga language means the Great Walls. Another name is Zimbabwe or Dzimba Dzamabwe, houses of stones, from which Zimbabwe got its name. 181 years before Christopher Columbus, in 1311 AD, Malian sailors traveled to America. According to an Egyptian scholar, Al-Umari's book published sometime around 1342, there is a story of two large maritime voyages ordered by the forerunner of Mansa Musa, a king who inherited the Malian throne in 1312. In the 14th century, Mali was highly urbanized. Sergio Domian, an Italian art and architecture scholar, said this laid the foundation of urban civilization. Mali had at least 400 cities, and the Malian city of Timbuktu had a population 5 times larger than medieval London, with more than 115,000 people. National Geographic recently described Timbuktu as the Paris of the medieval world because of its intellectual culture. There was the University Mosque built under the leadership of Mansa Musa, in which more than 25,000 students studied. There were over 150 Quran schools in which 20,000 children were instructed. In comparison, London had a total population of 20,000 people. Over 1,500 years ago, Ethiopia minted its coins. According to a history scholar, besides Rome, Persia, and the Kushan kingdom in northern India, no other state anywhere in the world could issue gold, a statement of sovereignty achieved only by Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, 11 underground medieval churches are carved into the ground. Roha became the new capital of the Ethiopians in the 12th and 13th centuries. Invented as a new Jerusalem by its founder, Emperor Lalibela, the city contains 11 churches, all carved to a depth of 11 meters out of the rock by hammer and chisel. All these temples were carved below ground level. Mwene Mutapa Kingdom had a social welfare system. According to Antonio Bocaro, a Portuguese contemporary, the empire showed great charity to the disabled, for example, the blind and maimed. They were called the king's poor and had land and revenues for their upkeep. If they want to pass through a kingdom, wherever they go, they get food and drinks for free, and when they leave that place to go to another, they get everything they need for their journey, a guide and someone to carry their belongings to the next village. The same obligation was applied everywhere they went.